Being healthy extends far beyond what we eat. It extends into how we live our lives, how we move through the world, how we connect with nature, and how we connect with one another. And today's guest, we explore multiple dimensions of how to live the healthiest, happiest versions of ourselves.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Louise Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business.
Do you have a product or service that you would like to sell online? Or maybe you've been thinking about it, but you're reserved to do it because you need a website, you need complicated systems, and you need to spend money? Well, I've created a completely free course that teaches you how to use Facebook in a purely organic way. This means no ads and no money are needed. You can use Facebook completely free. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com. Opt into my Profit from Social Media course. I'm going to teach you the free methods to using Facebook to make money today. On today's show, we've brought on Dr. Gabriel Cousens. Not only is he an MD and a certified naturopath, he's also a certified rabbi, holistic healer in the world of Indian medicine. He is truly somebody who's integrated holistic health and business on a level that I really admire, appreciate, and it's for that reason we brought on Dr. Gabriel Cousens on today's episode of Thriving Launch. All right, Thriving Launchers, such an honor to have Gabriel Cousens on the show. As you already know, he's somebody that's really inspired me to take my health to a whole nother level. Now, normally on the show, we invite our guests by asking them if they're ready to launch. Gabriel is ready to launch, but not only that, he wants us to invite us into a special prayer, and then he's going to break it down for us and let us know why it's so special and important. So go ahead, Gabriel.
Okay. Hashem Yakud, Kudashabrihu, Ushihinte, Bi Ilu Imu Layad, Shem Yuke Bavavke, Yuda Shem Shem Kozrael Ko Alam. Amen. And that prayer is about the merging of the heavens and the earth. And we understand that that's about how do we bring the spiritual awareness, which is easy to talk about, into the physical plane, which is more a little bit more of a challenge. So how is it that we sanctify all of life? How is it that we sanctify all of creation? How do we sanctify the food as a love note from God? And this prayer sets the intention to indeed do that. So it's the epitome of the attitude of what I call holistic wellness. I actually have a school called the Cousens School of Holistic Wellness. So it's the essence, is bringing the spiritual into our everyday walk. Native Americans talk about as walking the great red way. So that's what that prayer is activating. In my world and what we do here, no matter what people come from, and we do a lot of work with healing diabetes naturally, but our analysis isn't about blood sugar. That takes care of itself when you're doing the right thing. Our analysis is, from the Ayurvedic point of view, diabetes type 2 is a crime against wisdom, where we've lost contact with the natural way, with the natural laws and the cosmic laws. And our work is to help people come back in touch with that. And we have a very high success rate, without a doubt the highest in the world, where 61% of the people who come in who are non-insulin dependent heal of their diabetes in 3 weeks.
And I want to say something here that's really, really special to us here at Thriving Launch, and I know it's special to you guys at Thriving Launchers. It's so special when we talk about a full integration. You know, Kamala and I used to do this show, and it was just about business. And we educated people on just how to do business stuff. And we were having success with that. We were enjoying it. But we didn't feel that the audience was getting a full, holistic, integrated just deep dive into all of life, because one of the things that I've noticed, and Kamala, you can talk about this too, is that when I used to just be focused in our business with money and I was trying to just grow financially, it was hard work. And then when I started adding in, I want to eat healthier and I want to give back and make sure that I'm not just trying to grow the business, but I'm also growing a business that has purpose and has a deeper intention behind it, business became a lot easier.
That's exactly right. And all healing becomes easier. So people may come say, oh, I want to heal my diabetes. And at the end, as they go through the process, their comment consistently is, oh, yes, my diabetes is healed, and it's supposed to be incurable, and it's healed in 3 weeks. Okay, that's great, but what's really great for me is you've helped me reconnect to my soul. And that's really the essence of the work we do here at the Tree of Life Center US, is helping people reconnect with their soul, and then that connection guides them away from what I call in Ayurvedic crimes against wisdom. So that's the key. And so people are exposed to daily meditations, sunrise, sunset, new moon inipis, which we call our sweat lodges, and reconnecting to the rhythm of life, their own holy rhythm, and actually their authentic self.
I'd love to ask about incorporating some of these principles of connecting with our own authentic spiritual self and living in harmony. What are some ways that we can incorporate that into our daily lives?
So it's a good question, and it's actually pretty simple question. We call it the Essene Sevenfold Peace. So what is it? Physically, having a body that really works, where the energy flows, where your mind is actually working. What we see today is, believe it or not, there's over 100 million people on some sort of drug, whether it's legal or illegal, that is ultimately clouding their mind. So when you have a clear mind, and which is the second principle, and then you have what we call a right relationship with your family, that's sacred relationship, but also interfacing with your family of origin, and then you have a way of interfacing with the community. And today, much chaos in the world today. And the question is, how do you interface with it in a way that's not drawn into it? Okay, and then we have, we call it Omatakayasan, all my relatives. So we're talking about the rock people, which is the soul of the living planet, Earth, the soul of the sun, soul of the stars, all those pieces. Then the plant world, connecting to the energetic of that, connecting it to the energetic of the animal world, and also the energetic of the human world, is community in all cultures. Okay, from all cultures, we're talking also about the ecology, and how do you live in right balance with the ecology, and ultimately, how do you live in right balance with the divine? Take any of those away, and the whole thing comes out of balance. So if we understand simple principle, opening prayer, that we're in a tantric relationship with all creation, and all our interactions are about upgrading the spiritual awareness, the life force, the spirit in all that's going on, so that we're merging with it, in a sense, upgrading it, so all we're doing is consciousness. And the Native Americans call it walking the Great Red Way. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I have been blessed to be a supporter at some Sundance ceremonies and been on that path, so I really appreciate the perspective of blending the Red Way with Tantra, with nutrition, and with connection with the soul and connection with nature. It's really beautiful blending that you've put together in your body of work and in your books as well. I would love to hear a bit more about what are some of the essential elements that you feel are part of this reconnecting, this rejoining of who we are.
It's something that really begins to happen naturally when your focus is on the sevenfold peace, because it starts with practice. Okay, I'm going to eat well, and we eat to become a superconductor of the divine. That changes your conscious. Oh, now I'm also going to meditate, so I create a quiet mind, which helps me connect. Now I'm focusing on bringing those two pieces into sacred relationships, so relationship becomes a way of enhancing the sacredness of all life, basically the tantric relationship where your heart is opening, you're creating a space for the other person, and everyone is being elevated spiritually through that relationship. So these are basic ways of life that naturally enhance it. I find that the meditation is, for many people, since people's lives are so noisy, that they need a quiet space to start to reconnect. And that's what we try to do here at the Tree of Life, is actually create a quiet space and create vitamin N, connecting with nature, so that they start to reconnect with who they are. Now, when that connection happens, then the ball of consciousness begins to expand and it really gets rolling. So it happens naturally and spontaneously, rather than think, oh, I got to reconnect, I got to really... No, we're just take a way of life, and that way of life will then help you more reconnect. Does that make sense?
You know, I really want to back up everything that you're saying, and not only does it make total sense, it's a very key piece of my life, a keystone moment in my life was when I decided that I was going to do a fast, and I didn't know really what fasting was. I just thought, I'm going to try fasting for 3 days, water fast, and then I'm going to try several days of fasting just on juices, primarily green drinks, and make them in my own home. And I did that, and then I thought, let's throw in meditation. I've heard meditation works really well. So I started compiling all these different things that I'd heard of, read a bit about, and through that process, I started to experience some of the highest levels of peace that I've ever had in my whole life. Even to this day, when I look back, in some traditions, they talk about a beginner's mind and being new to something. And I think because I was so new, maybe I had very rich soil of not having any expectations. But for about a month or two, I felt completely at peace. The world felt like everything was okay. And like kind of the more primary things that I got out of that time was spending time in quiet, spending a little time to appreciate nature, and spending some time, making sure that I'm drinking lots of water, way more than anyone's really accustomed to drinking, and eating whole foods.
So you just described our spiritual fast. Okay, that's exactly what we do, and that's exactly the kind of result. You get reconnected to your soul in the process, you get reconnected to your holy rhythm and the holy rhythm of the living planet, which is exactly what you're describing. You just did it on your own. So we have a setting that do exactly that, and spiritual fasting is a very big part of our work. We have 4 spiritual fasts here a year, and it's part of our diabetes program as well, and it really does work exactly the way you're talking about it. So there you go.
It's interesting to think about how what we eat could actually impact our relationships, and how we choose to spend a little bit of time being quiet could impact our business or our energy levels. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the results that people have when they come to your retreats, and maybe even some of the resistances that people have? Because I'm thinking about like maybe a busy CEO and thinking, oh God, like trying to eat raw foods and meditation, all this stuff. And then what is it like when that kind of person comes and just says, you know what, I'm going to try it because I'm exhausted and I haven't found an answer, and I'm going to try this. What happens, Gabriel?
It's kind of fun to see, because a lot of people come because they know this is a little different, it's a little bit out of my box, and let's see. And they blossom because they start to reconnect. It's not like we're doing it for them. Yes, obviously we have meditation, we have all the things we're talking about, we have spiritual discussion. They're eating live food, and the live food himself begins to clear their mind and their consciousness, and suddenly they become superconductors of the divine. And this whole transition that they worry about is like, wow, that's easy, because they're having such a positive experience. And it happens to a lot of people that way. And it's really beautiful to see the simplicity, the elegant simplicity is what I enjoy the most. So people light up, and then there's a little catch to it. as you say, well, it lasted for a month or two. So what I've observed in the big picture is people need to do start with a spiritual fast twice a year so they get that reinforcement. So reinforcement is part of that whole process, and, so that's a way of kind of understanding it, that people, because the world, until they're strong enough, they can get a little bit sucked back in. And when you repeat it enough times, then you're able to hold your awareness and not be sucked into crimes against wisdom, crimes against yourself. So that's what happens. They love it. I have a lot of people coming back. Not everybody's ready for this, okay? And what I speak when I speak about diabetes, which is only one little thing that we do, it's like maybe that's 5% of the population who are willing to actually cure themselves naturally rather than eat whatever you want, take some insulin. Of course, you can never cure anything that way. So a lot of people just come because they know they want transition in the big picture. And that's the key. And they're ready for it. But they don't know what it is, but they're ready for it. And that's the key that makes it work. There has to be a part of you who wants to play. And so we do get people, and I'm not talking about people who are into live foods. I'm just talking about 50% of the people come here, they're meat eaters. And they're living very intensely in the world. And it's like, this is not working. I am not feeling good. What's the point of doing all this? They come here and they reconnect to their soul, reconnect to their authentic self, reconnect to their holy rhythm, and reconnect to the larger rhythm of the living planet. And suddenly, they're turned on. And so it isn't a lot of work to encourage people to keep going in that direction. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and I know that your work has attracted the likes of Woody Harrelson, the actor who was in the movie The Hunger Games. I remember reading an article about him, and he said that he's like 80-90% raw food. When we get into this raw foods, one of the things that happened for me is I went extreme. I did 3 months hardcore raw foods. It was kind of a shock to everybody around me. It was a little bit of a shock to me because, I'm used to going out with friends and we go out to eat, and most restaurants aren't serving raw foods, and just a very big lifestyle change. Then I brought it back into what's a little bit more of a way that I can integrate this wisdom, but in a way that isn't so dramatic for me. Now, there's people in different scales. There's 40% raw foods, there's 30, there's 80. What do you recommend, and how would you suggest that we start bringing in some of the wisdom tips that you've provided in a way that we can do so in the world? You live in a very special kind of part of the world that you've created for yourself. What about some of us that have very busy, active lives? We have kids, so changing everything so dramatically might be too much, but creating small changes could snowball. What are some of the ways that you suggest we create some of these changes and integrate some of the wisdom that we've discussed here today?
So one of the key things is one step at a time. Now, it isn't just one step. We actually discuss this with people, as they leave the 7-day fast program or the 21-day program. Make a step you can succeed with so you have a positive reinforcement. Make a dietary step and make a lifestyle step. Okay, so that's how we start. Where we go with it is that what I see that an 80% live food, plant source only diet does really, really work, is very optimal levels of results once people have gotten through the first kind of steps of it, where here they're going to be 100% live food for a period of time, like three weeks. And then they can begin to kind of modify and do that. So that makes a big difference. Incorporate the lifestyle. Well, most people aren't meditating very often. So, hey, can we do meditating once or twice a day? So, but there are lifestyle changes people have to choose, and something they will succeed with. And then from one step, you go 2 steps and 3 steps, and it continues. There's a story of the man with a candle, and somebody sees him walking. It's a dark night. So, where are you going? I'm going to the mountain. Well, you can't see the mountain from here. Of course I can't see the mountain from here. I can see one step at a time. And that's the point. And so we have incredible potential. We can, even beyond our dreams. Last year we had a lady 92 years old, comes in a wheelchair, 13 different medications, high blood pressure, diabetes. It's like, okay, we're not going to have any limitations. So at 3 weeks, her diabetes is cured. She's no longer she stopped all 13 medications. She no longer has high blood pressure, and she's walking out of her wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
And I saw her a year later, and she's still walking around happy. All we need to do is connect her to a way of life that worked, and she was ready to go, 92 years old. So we may call these miracles. I don't call them miracles. I just say when you return to the natural way and the cosmic way, everything begins to work for you. And that vital life force, which is the real healer, begins to be activated. Now, she was a fun example, but that's not a rarity. So I don't even say create a dream and see what you can do. We have almost unlimited potential what we can do, and that's an example of that. So we really inspire people. Okay, you're connected to your soul. The sky's the limit. Even you have the possibility of transcending your dreams. And so, okay, so it's an attitude that says, hey, I'm unlimited. I can reach my full potential as a human being. That's the attitude that we try to inspire people with.
Before we close out, is there any last closing thoughts or words of wisdom or practices that you want to leave people with to live an inspired life, to live in the way that you're speaking?
The one thought I would say, and starts with that prayer, is how do we sanctify all of our life? How do we bring the divine into every moment? How do we bring the divine into sacred relationship? How do we bring the divine into eating our food, doing our exercises? How do we bring the divine in every aspect of our walk through life? And just keeping that one thought in mind really begins to take you to where you need to go in a very, very practical way in the very busy outer world. And my granddaughters live in New York City. I love New York. I have no problem. I still keep the same thing going. Really doesn't matter. Okay, and that's my point. It isn't just that we're in a special location. It's a nice way to live. Okay, it's nice not to be in the city. Okay, that's good. But I take it wherever I go. It doesn't really matter anymore. Wherever that happens to be, that presence, that sanctification of all life, including my own, is the prime way of walking the walk.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for being here on Thriving Launch. We're going to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to connect with you through this interview. Thank you so much for coming on. And Thriving Launchers, there's so much more to explore after listening to this interview.
So may everyone be blessed that your hearts and minds become merged in that holy wisdom, and you can walk this sacred walk and sanctify every aspect of your life.
There we have it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Gabriel Cousens. If you guys are interested in anything about Gabriel and what he's up to, make sure to check out thrivinglaunch.com and be sure to check out the Tree of Life. What is your website, Gabriel, just so people have it?
Well, it's just drcousens.com will get you there.
Fantastic. So drcousens.com, and also you're welcome to go over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll have that easily for you to click and to check out all the awesome resources. We'll see you soon.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.
Be sure to tune into our next episode where I'm going to introduce myself, and I want to meet you and find out who you are by letting you know who exactly is Luis Congdon.